we have Sagar Tiwari, a security researcher, and Shubham Kumar, senior information security analyst at TransUnion. They will be discussing about OSINT tracking, the subtle art of not giving. Let the speakers let you know. So Sagar Tiwari is a enthusiastic learner and cybersecurity researcher, and he has written and published over 50 blogs, articles, and he's an OSINT lover. You will get to know more about it. And he's also a SAN speaker as well. So next up we have with him, co-speaker will be Shubham Kumar, who's also a passionate cybersecurity researcher and an OSINT researcher. So give them a big round of applause.
Hello everyone, good morning. I hope you are awake. So, without any further ado, let's start with that. So, as quoted, I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career, skills that make me a nightmare for a people like you. These iconic lines by the famous actor Liam Neeson from a movie called as Taken are just not memorable. They are what is defined as an OSINT. We use our set of skills in order to track some things. For example, there are small details that make the part of a big story, isn't it? So we use all of our skills in order to navigate the intricate web of cybersecurity in order to form the actionable intelligence. So consider yourself that you are sitting comfortably in a corner, or right now as you are sitting, and with your browser open, you can actually access a CCTV camera or even track a giant floating vessel, and that too from the comfort of your seats actually, right? This doesn't sound like a scene from a movie. Oh, thank you. I hope suppose sahi sunai de raha. Okay. Now, this doesn't sound like a scene from a movie or from a show that is Mr. Robot, from which we are both inspired by and we have done our research too. Well, this is today's reality. And with that, we would like you to welcome to our talk, and that is OSINT tracking, the subtle art of not giving a F star star star. Now, as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. That is why we would like to give some disclaimer, and that is the content discussed on this platform is meant for educational purposes only, so please use it wisely. The misuse of any information provided herein shall be the sole liability of the abuser. And disclaimer two is that this talk also bears no authorization from speakers' employers, and that is TransUnion. Now, having said that, let's move to our little story, and for that we have Sagar.
So before we hop into the OSINT tidal waves and learn more about it, let's take a moment of step back. Let's just understand that how two security guys, that is me and Shubham, who were passionate about cybersecurity, suddenly hop into the field of OSINT. Well, it was time during the pandemic when we all were strangled at our homes. At that time, we decided to form a team called F-Society 00, and with my colleagues and friends, including Shubham, we participated in multiple international competitions. While solving multiple challenges and stumbling across the problems, we faced the problem of OSINT, and specifically OSINT tracking. That particular field piqued our interest because it was quite fascinating and new. And while researching, doing more work, and over the period of span and years, with the working cases, we get you the OSINT tracking. So that's what we do. We OSINT and we know things. So before we start, let's just make a boilerplate line of what this talk is going to be about. Expectations and what not to expect. So this talk consists of all the tools, resource, tactics, techniques that we have used over the span of years and working on the cases, which you will introduce with the field of OSINT if you have not heard about it, different segments of OSINT, how vehicle security, vehicle OSINT, maritime OSINT works, definitely multiple things. Apart from this, one thing to make sure that you will be learning about the techniques and about the critical and analytical thinking that is required, because you can get data from these tools and resources anywhere, but you need to know the point, you need to know the pattern that is going from point A to point B. So we try to bring that perspective to you. Moving forward, So more of an obligatory slide of who am I. So my name is Sagar Tiwari. I'm an independent cybersecurity researcher, an OSINT investigator, a cyber journalist. I write, create content for multiple publications around the globe. I've shared stage with Shubham Kumar on multiple respected conferences like SANS OSINT Summit 2324, DEFCON DC 9111, as well as GrimCon OX7. Apart from this, I lead a CTF team from India called FSOCID00, and I go by the alias name EliteMET7. Well, over to you, Shubham.
My name is Shubham Kumar, currently employed as a senior security analyst at TransUnion. Besides that, I'm also a cybersecurity evangelist and an OSINT enthusiast. And in particular, we have been given multiple talks on OSINT at various conferences, which are namely SANS OSINT Summit 2023 and 24. And other than that is DEFCON DC 9111. Where we have also taught multiple peoples at different universities regarding OSINT and cybersecurity portions, and have been playing CTF in the team FSOCID00 and going by the name FlameX. With that, let's set our agenda today, and that is table of contents. So starting with that, we will go with what is OSINT, understanding the basics of it, then we will move to the relevance of it, that why it is so important. Then we will understand the 101s. Please take care of that, because 101s are the ones that you can plug in into the other OSINT stuff that we are going to discuss. And that is the social media analyzing, vehicle OSINT, maritime OSINT, OSINT for aircraft, and signal OSINT. And in the end, to top it all, we have the conclusion, so that you can grab what we have discussed till then. Now, starting with our journey, and that is what is OSINT. Now, how many of you are here that know a bit about OSINT? Just raise your hands. Okay, that's nice. So OSINT is basically an art. It is more of a technique where you analyze, collect, and disseminate the information that is from the publicly available resources. And since it is from the publicly available resources, it is very fast. It is indeed the fastest out there. It runs like fire everywhere. OSINT is basically being utilized from everyone basically utilizes it, whether be it threat intelligence, as they have discussed before, and to the law firms, to the militaries, and to the government agencies. Everyone uses it. And since OSINT in itself is so powerful, that is why it is so relevant in today's time. As you can see, there are some of these news clips. Any one of you have heard about this? Just raise your hands if you can read and associate with any of those news headlines. I will give it a moment. Okay. So if you have been following the geopolitical scenarios that has been constantly going on, then you should know that there are vessels that are being targeted by different pirates out there. And since a lot of global trade happens through that, that is why OSINT becomes a lot more important. Other than that, there is a very grave news, and that is influencer 23 shares lunch on Instagram. Attacker finds and shoot her. And this is not something which is months old. This is some days old that we have seen. And it was morely because that OSINT is not just utilized by us as good people, but also by the adversaries. That is why we need to arm ourselves. We need to arm ourselves from the point of more than financial resources, but to art, which helps you to master it. Now, we start with the 101s.
So coming to the 101. So basically, these are the techniques that is kind of mutual among different social media intelligence, vehicle intelligence, and different segments. So starting with, we have the sock puppet accounts, image reversing, and the CCTV footages. Hey, imagine a scenario. While you're traversing a social media account as an investigator, you have a target, a person of interest. You don't want your digital footprint to be traced back down to you. And for that particular reason, you use sock puppet accounts. So these are nothing but just an alternative identity of yours on digital world. So your original one will be secured. To create these, you can use a temporary mail, which is one of the most famous ones. So if you have to sign up on a particular account, you don't want to give your original email IDs. But if you want the more persistent one accounts, then you can go for the different mail servers, create different accounts in the different regions, depending upon the cases, as well as create the social media profiles accordingly on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, X, and as well as. Apart from this, always make sure to use the virtual environment and Tor network, VPNs, and everything other than that can secure your network logs, because you don't want the attackers to know you. Moving forward, we have the image reversing, which is another weapon in the OSINT arsenal for an investigator. So, whether you are tracking a particular individual, vehicle, aircraft, or maritime vessel, as we have discussed in the earlier talks at the SANS OSINT summits, image reversing can be pivotal and very much useful. So let's take a scenario. There was an investigator who has a particular set of skills and right set of tools that were able to geolocate a particular place just by looking at an image of an electrical wall socket in a room. In another case, an investigator was able to track down a particular building just by looking at electrical elevator menu panel. Well, these kinds of image reversing tools are very much pivotal when you're looking, especially in the geospatial intelligence segment. So to do the image reversing, there are multiple tools available online. You can go for the TinEye, PIMEyes, as well as multiple search engines in different regions have the image reverse searching capabilities available. But once again, the points boil down to this segment that it depends upon the case and which region you're targeting, and accordingly use the search engine. The CCTV footages are basically what we can the borderlines for any kind of hacking movies or web series. Well, CCTV footages provide you a dynamic and real-time activity of what is actually happening. And as an OSINT investigator, it's become very much useful. But always make sure that when you are fumbling with these kinds of things, ethical reasons do come into play. So always make sure that you have the right set of permission with authorities while using these kinds of things. To track these kinds of CCTV footages, you then either use Google Docs, as well as go for the internet-connected search engines like the Shodan, Census, or Binary Edge. Apart from this, there are multiple centralized repositories that can be used that have the exposed cameras and CCTV footages, as well as the webcams, so you can have the footage and have the real-time analysis. Well, that's for the 101. Let's move toward the social media analysis.
Okay, coming to the social media analysis. Now, most of the dynamic information that comes to you is from the social media. As we said, that it spreads like fire, right? So, social media investigations or analysis becomes critical in that sense. Having an email address with you, you can utilize platforms like or sites like Have I Been Pawned or Dehashed in general. These sites are not just meant to provide you or identify whether the account that you have has been in any of the data breaches. But if you take a closer look at that, then you can understand it forms a behavior pattern. For example, there are multiple sites that are related to the food eating. For example, that is Domino's or Zomato, in fact. Then it's a habit that a person actually loves food. And if there are multiple sites associated in the data breach that are related to some pets, then you can understand or form a bit of a pointer that the person also loves pets in that sense. Not only this, since the email has been in data breaches, hence platforms like Dhash can provide you information such as the username, the location, or the passwords in a plain text. And we have tested this on multiple of our investigations where we were able to not just guess, but see the password of a person, and that was in a plain one. Now, the important thing to note down here is that once you get this username, you can use tools like Sherlock in order to see where that account has been used on different sites. Not only this, a platform that is very famous, and that is What's My Name. And if you utilize, you can find much more of that information, including some of the sites which are not safe for work. And if you know what I mean by that, right? So, and please understand this, that not all the information here will be 100% accurate, but it helps you to form a pointer, right? And once you have that information, for example, in our case, we were able to leverage that even to the social media platforms such as the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And not just that, TikTok in sense, yes. We have ways, I mean, everyone has, right? So once we get to that point, then we were able to relate and form more behavior of the person, because people do have a habit of uploading. Oh, so sorry, not uploading. They have a frequent habit of uploading their pictures on social media of with whom they are interacting, and thus you can form and say and take a look. Okay, this is the person who has a connection with this one. I've seen this one too, and then it spreads like a wildfire, as we said. And not just that, people have a habit of posting out the pictures of what they love or where they are going on every single day. That is on platforms like Snapchat, right? And this details can be harnessed in order to see the location of the person out there. Not just that, some people do have a habit when they are going to travel to some place, then they upload a picture of their own airplane ticket. You give the information out there, and then you are asking, right? But it does not happen that way. And also, people upload a picture of their own vehicles with the vehicle numbers. And you can leverage or pivot that information to the vehicle OSINT part. Now, vehicle OSINT in journal is also very important because it helps you to analyze all these portions, all these informations that you have gathered till this point. Now, vehicle OSINT can start with VRM, or vehicle registration mark, or license plate in journal. So if you take a closer look at the license plate, you will be able to analyze and see what information it gives you on a very small level. But when you can use platforms like VIN decoders, and that comes with the license plate recognizing too, then you can get information such as the VIN number, if you can see. VIN number. And other than that, the make, the model, year, etc. details. But please take a close look at the VIN too. Other than that, in India, for example, you have the RTOs that enable, or they provide you with the various VRM or the license plate numbers. So when we were doing our investigations, we were able to find even the owner's name out there in plain text. And other than that, they have the challan information. It's more like a ticketing information, but you say, why is it so important? Because it helps you to form the behavior pattern of a person. Why? Because if a person is found to be charged with intoxication during a driving, then you know that kind of a person he is. And you can also, sometimes these tickets can also reveal information about the close associate with that person who are seen or driving that vehicle too. And these helps in the tracking of those people too. Now, coming to the VIN number. Now, VIN number in journal is a 17-digit alphanumeric number. It is very important. It's more like a fingerprint to your vehicle. Now, the important thing is that it reveals a lot of informations. And you can do a decoding by manual method or through the online method. Utilizing platform like VIN decoders again can help you to understand the vehicle aspects. For example, you can get details like the report summary, which gives you about the vehicle specifications too, like what the make, the model, the engine, etc. But these informations are okay, but also then you get the recalls and complaints and then the sales records. Recalls and complaints, guys, are very important too, in aspect because they tend to tell you a kind of a problem that associates with the vehicle that can be harnessed. It has been done in one of the incidents. If you haven't read about it, then please do. It's called Kia Boys incident. It was an issue with the Kia cars and the Hyundai cars that were targeted massively, and it was more of a trend in TikTok. Now, other than that, we have the sales record. Now, sales records tells you the ownership of the person associated with that vehicle. Other than that, you have the salvage records. Now, these salvage records and ownership records tells you a brief history about the vehicle in itself, which can be utilized as in for tracking purposes or even by the phishing people. Now, the thing is that utilizing a platform like DatSim, we were able to plug in this or do a bit of an investigation on our VIN number, and we were able to get this information about a person, you see? Like, something like this. And if you have been taking a note on the social media profiles that we were seeing, this is the same person. And that is the beauty of OSINT, guys, because it helps you to relate the facts from multiple facets and come to a point. You are able to analyze a person that the vehicle is related. And even in this, we were able to find phone numbers, primary residence, and another email address that was associated with that same person. Isn't it the beauty? It's not magic, it's OSINT. Now, coming to the world of Maritime OSINT. This is very important. And as I was saying, if you have been following some of the geopolitical scenarios and love doing that stuff, then you can utilize this information. For example, one of your loved ones is going on a ship, and you want to see whether they are safe or not. You can utilize this one too. For example, you have the tool of AIS. Now, AIS stands for Automatic Identification System. Now, it's more of an automated targeting system that helps you, or that helps the vessels to identify themselves within their vicinity. The important part here is that AIS is more like, it has, to give you a technical review, it has basically a transponder in itself, which actually helps you to see what the vessels are nearby. And that works on two basic frequencies, that is 167.975 megahertz to 162.025 megahertz with a bandwidth of around 25 kilohertz. Now, the important thing to note down here is that this map, if you can see, it reveals a lot of details about various vessels out there, right? And all these vessels are quite important because you can know that some of these are unidentified vessels, and that can be a part of some important features too, right? AIS also helps you to get different kinds of information from the static to the dynamic. Static information is more like IMO, MMSI, vessel name, vessel type, everything. And the dynamic information is what you are interested in, that is the position and where it is going, and with the speed that it has. And it helps you to crack down even the illicit activities that are being going on. Now, coming to the VSAT portion. VSAT in itself stands for Very Small Aperture Terminal, which is more like a satellite device based on a ship. Now, it provides more bandwidth with a greater bandwidth control, greater connectivity, and when the ship is in an offshore region, because AIS has some limited capabilities because it has some range in itself. Like, it has a range of almost 20 nautical miles to 350 nautical miles, which approximately relates to 30 to 500 and 600 kilometers. And this also depends on various other conditions. But VSAT provides you a continuous activity, and VSAT is being used by not just cruise ships, but also by some of the military or the important vessels too in that aspect. And that is where it becomes very important. Now, the thing that you can here is see is that we have utilized and seen two of them, that Sailor 600, 800, 900. So utilizing platforms like Sensors with you, you can find all these VSAT terminals. And once you get into their IP addresses, that is there, you can access the VSAT console, and it provides you a depth of information. I mean, and those are all dynamic. That is, they are constantly updating. They are not static in general. So you get the GNSS position, vessel heading, satellite position, etc. And these all requires no administrative privileges. You don't have to exploit anything to get this information. Other than that, there is also a non-administrative access which comes into the support section, which gives you some of the static reports, that is days, weeks, and months. And these static reports, when we were doing our investigation, we were able to find 84 of these different fields that had information from the location to different other fields. And they were quite critical. And that is what we are trying to infer, that all these informations, such as AIS and VSAT, helps you to see or identify these vessels which can be in grave danger, or do your bit of an investigation on yourself. Now, keeping it aside, now we will move to the ADSB of the portion.
So now, as you have seen already about the maritime vessels, from the stormy seas, now let's move to the fierce skies, and that is where we are going for the aircraft OSINT. Now imagine a scenario like, you have your investigator, you have been tasked with a case where you have to find a particular person. Using social media, you are able to find that this person is flying from one point A, but unknown lands of point B. But while their flight number, you can track their flights. Well, that's a similar case. Well, let's take it another level. Let's say now you have been tasked to track a private plane, a chartered plane, that might be a part of some kind of illicit operations. Well, in that cases, they won't be going to use the officials' runways and official airports. They will be going for the abandoned landing strips, which is obviously in the unknown paths. But what is happening is that the aircrafts are continuously transponding and broadcasting the signals. Using specific tools and techniques, you can track those aircrafts down, and you will know exactly in which part of the world they're going to land and which part of the world landing strip they're going to use. For that, the technology that is used is called ADSB, that stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast. So automatic means that no human interaction is required for the transponders to work. Dependent means it requires dependent upon the GNSS satellites like the GPS for its location. Surveillance means its location is being tracked all the time, and broadcasting means that the information is being broadcasted to the nearby vicinity aircraft as well as to the land-based stations. It operates on 978 megahertz and 1090 megahertz. There are, as you can see on the left top corner, we have used one of the public-based ISOs that is called the AirNav radar, where you can track the aircraft. As you can see that we have targeting one of the government-operated aircraft, and we know which part of the world they are flying from, the flight route they are going to take in. There are multiple other resources, such like AirNav radar, like Flight Radar 24, as well as the Flight Aware. They all work on a similar principle, where they are being crowdsourced by the different users who support these kinds of web applications by supporting their broadcaster information. Like whatever their transporter is being feeding with, they give this data to these servers, and anyone can see this data. Now, moving forward, we have the ADSBHub. So ADSBHub is basically aggregates the data from various receivers around the world. So why use this one? Well, there's a problem. What happens with these public-based resources, as you have seen previously, the problem is that they come with a business plan. They want you to buy a subscription to have the more advanced level filters and information. Apart from this, another problem comes while working on investigation cases is that lots of information has been redacted. Like if you have heard about the Musk plane case, where Elon Musk have asked these web applications to reduce their data from the servers. So while tracking any particular person of interest and higher importance of aircrafts, it has become very much hard to track these things down using these online resources. But what happened with ADSBHub is that it is the data in the rawest and the purest form. So it's like if anybody with an antenna, a receiver antenna, an ADSB software, decoding software, can show you this data from the server. So as you can see that there are thousands of servers that are being tracking the aircrafts, thousands of aircrafts per second. So we have as you can see in the top one, we have targeted one in the Venice, Italy, where it tracking multiple aircrafts in this vicinity location, as well as we are getting much more data like the coverage area. So we can know that which part of the sky has the highest density of the aircraft. So imagine a scenario where you have to track a particular aircraft, you know a location, while the other resources might not give you the data, but using the ADSBHub, you can know that which part from point A to point B the aircraft is flying. Apart from this, you can see in the charts and the tables that lots of other information like the ICO call sign, as well as the vertical height, barometric altitude, and different kinds of information are available that can be used in different form of aircraft-based OSINT. Moving forward, we have the ADSB exchange. Well, this resource is more or less in a similar manner to the AirNav radar or Flight Radar 24. But there is a catch. The catch is that this server does not redact any kind of information and become very much useful when you're tracking aircrafts of higher importance. Let's just keep it in that sentence only. So you can get lots of information about the aircraft, like the score code, which is very important, which is for the ATC transponders on the ATC call center to know if aircraft is in any kind of danger or emergency situation. So as you can see that one of the particular filter that we are very much fan of is that you can, as you can see in the top image, that there are thousands of aircrafts there. But in the below image, there are very less aircraft. Because what has happened is that all the civilians aircraft have been redacted. Now we are looking at some of the government-operated aircrafts that not only includes the aircraft, but also the choppers, drones, and different kinds of things. So while working on any kind of geopolitical investigations, this becomes very much useful because you know which part in the world has been introducing which kind of aircraft, what is actually happening to understand. It is in the rawest and purest form. Well, that's all about the aircraft-based OSINT. Moving forward, we have the signals. So OSINT for radio signals is not only crucial for the cybersecurity world, but also in the purpose of intelligence. So if you're familiar with any of the movies that include intelligence, like The Imitation Game, they use the receiving antennas to listen to the signals, decode the signals, and hop in and snoop into the live radio communication that is happening. Well, that segment covers something like that. So we are using SDR, which is software-defined radio, which is basically a replacement of the traditional and conventional hardware-based radio components for the modulation and demodulation and all the other works. But here we will talk about the web SDR. That is the web version of the SDR that are connected to the internet, and all the servers are available, so you can track that particular radio signals. Well, jumping before onto that, let's have an interesting story of how we stumbled across the web SDR. So while working on one of the cases, we were looking at a forum on Reddit, and we get to know about a particular web SDR, University of Twente. That University of Twente has a good enough antenna and was listening to the radio signals of a conflict zone, of a war zone, and we were able to listen to the live radio communication that were happening between the two different parties. Covering this, a New York Times documentary is also available on YouTube. There were only a few hundred people around the world who were able to track these signals down. So in that segment, it shows you that how important web SDRs can be when you're looking and snooping into the signals. So as you can see that in the top one, we are accessing one of the web SDR that is on the Goonhully radio station in the UK that has a 25-meter radio telescope dish that is being targeting and logged to a Qatar Oscar 100 narrowband SDR satellite that is basically used for the amateur radio communications as well as different part. So by knowing the right set of frequencies, the modes, you can snoop in, tune into the right frequency sets, and listen to the radio communication that is happening, which is quite crucial when you're working on investigation case and you want to know that what kind of actual events are happening. Moving forward, the radio signals are not only for the snooping part or just to listening part, but they can also be used to know the decode the information. So as I've been saying about the ADSB for aircraft tracking, web SDRs can also be used in this segment. So there are open source software like OpenWebRx that provides you the modes to decode the right set of frequencies and the data. So imagine a case, like because there are only limited numbers of ADSB receivers around the world. So in a particular location X, there might be and there might not be a receiver. But if an aircraft is going through that particular location, and if there is no receiver, there will not data on any of the sites. But if you know a correct web SDR in that area, you can tune into that particular frequency and have that decoded information, which is not readily available anywhere on the internet. Only you would be listening it to in the lifetime and decoding in the lifetime. So in that sense, this kinds of web SDR decoders are very much useful. Apart from this, there are different modes like ACARS. For marine vessels, AIS, once again as Shubham has covered, you can do the similar manner. We have the FT8 as well as the pager device, which is quite used in the emergency industries like the healthcare industry and the feds industry, as well as the SSTV for the media signals to be decoded over the radio signals. So that's what about the OSINT for radio signals, and let's move toward the conclusion. So you have to know that OSINT tracking represents a powerful tool for gathering intelligence, and specifically in today's world, that is today's connected world. You need to know that by leveraging the public information, OSINT can use for harvest lots of information. And currently in the geopolitical drama that is going on, it has become vitally important to understand. And as an investigation journalist, it becomes more vitally to know what kind of resources are available. There are various resource methodologies, techniques, and tactics involved to do it, but always and crucial to emphasize that you have to consider the privacy concerns that are required with the OSINT activity. So you have to make your ethical standards high, because always remember, control can sometimes be an illusion, but sometimes you need illusion to gain control. And with that, we'd like to thank you, everyone, and thank you BSides Mumbai to give us this opportunity. This is me, Elliot M87, he's Flaymax. This is my team, Curse, Nito, Mac, Fanron, Redu. Thank you.